Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we are reading from Confessions. I threw eggs from the 16th floor of my apartment to maintain peace and quiet. I used to live on the 16th floor of an apartment building. There was a pub on the ground floor, and people would often congregate late at night in the street in front of the pub entrance. This was a hindrance to residents because we would wake up at 1 or 2 in the morning to drunk people talking outside. My apartment had 2 balconies on 2 sides of the building, so I often looked down on people grouping together on both sides of the building. I got fed up with it and decided to drop an egg where a group of people were chatting. They immediately dispersed and I could enjoy my sleep again. I did this on another occasion, and again it worked. I started buying more eggs, and it became a habit that I practiced for about 6 months. No one had a clue it was me, and I even went to the pub and overheard people chatting about eggs being dropped from balconies in the building. Needless to say, I used to maintain peace and quiet by dropping eggs from my balconies. Our next post is by Specific Fault. When asked for my recipes of one of my signature cake dish, I will leave out some important things on purpose to make sure no one gets it right. So yes, I admit it, I am doing it on purpose and to make sure no one will exactly be able to recreate it. And double yes, I am pleased when people later tell me it was similar like mine, but it had some magic missing, and instead of making it themselves, ask me to bring it along next time. I will for sure provide an original recipe for the cake dish with whom I started, often years back, but those tiny little adjustments I made with trial and error over many attempts are my secret. For example, with my lemon cheesecake, the original says add XX amount of cream cheese and XX amount of whipped cream. With my adjustment, you add less from one and more from another. And instead of just white sugar, I use half white and brown. Just you can get the gist. It is not that I will screw completely with people, not with prices for groceries going up, that would be too much. But I will make sure that no one will ever be able to get it the exact way my stuff tastes. And if it is my sister-in-law complaining, that leaves me with an inner evil grin because she always insists she is a godsend angel when it comes to baking, cooking. Spoiler, she is not. And every time she shows up with some of my signature stuff and the family tells her nope, Specific Faults is way better and she is pissed, that is the best about family gatherings. And as she can't drop it, I will have plenty of more fun to happen in the future. Petty and slightly evil, some childish rival thing with sister-in-law, hell yes, and I regret nothing. And for you who might wonder, yes, my husband knows it and takes his own fun out of it regarding his sister. But if I ever happen to have a child that loves cooking or baking, I will make sure she or he will be gifted every single one of my recipes when the time is right. Our next post is by Carmenetta G. I sold his PlayStation for $50, about $2. I put his in air quotes because we don't agree on whose PlayStation it was. I bought the PlayStation before we started dating. I only played Minecraft and Crush Bandicoot and so on. I wasn't using it that often and wasn't really attached to it. He however loved that PlayStation and couldn't stop playing Fallout and Elder something and God of War for hours at a time. Really killed my soul cause I had to do everything. And I had to get up several times at night to ask him to come to bed. We decided we needed to start walking in the afternoon. We needed exercise. But whenever I got ready and went for a walk, he would back out and stay home to play games instead. I was getting really annoyed. One Saturday morning, I decided to walk to the nearby shop to get bananas. I invited him to come, and he said no again, so I left. When I got home, he was annoyed that I didn't get him chips. This just set me off and I lost it. We had a huge fight. I complained that he doesn't work, pay for anything, or do chores, and he reminded me that I owe him $50 for when I short buying groceries for the house. It ended up with him leaving to his mom's after breaking up with me for being too naggy. He lived with me at the time. I was actually happy. In the week he was gone, the work around the house was halved. The water and electricity bill was so much less, and I even had time to chill and do fun things. After a week he wanted to talk, and he told me that he was giving me the chance to apologize if I want him to come back. I said no. I thought about it and decided we are better off separated. He wasn't happy and said he wanted his $50, which I sent through post. He contacted me again and asked when he can get his PlayStation. I said I sold it for $50 to pay him back, and he lost it, saying I had no right to sell his PlayStation. I reminded him I bought it long before I met him, but apparently, since I wasn't using it, and he was the only one using it, it means it's his. The only reason I wasn't using it was because I was doing all the chores and never had time, and when I did have time, he didn't want to give me a turn. I didn't actually sell it, I just told him I did, but his mom contacted me, and apparently he is really taking it bad. He has hours of saved games on it, and it's a whole story now. Am I the jerk? Should I come clean and just give it to him? Our next post is by Per Trip. I stole $2.5K from a mega grocery store when I was 16. When I was 16, I got my first job at my town's grocery store. One day, I was extremely thirsty and didn't have the money to pay for a drink. I thought it wouldn't make a difference if I took one, so I did. I remember chugging it in the bathroom and throwing it away and feeling such a rush. It started small, from water bottles to a few apples or bananas on my lunch. Since I was a cashier, I had easy access to money, and I did it in such a non-thought-out and stupid way. Customer would hand me money, I would open the register, I would hand them back their change, and take a couple bills and swiftly tuck it in my waist. Now I didn't see what bills I would pull out until the end of my shift and I went home. Some days I would have a few 5s, 20s. Others I would have 50s and 100s. I did this for a solid 5 months every other shift, and I worked 4 days a week. I didn't go crazy spending the money. I bought myself a few snacks at my school's concession, paid for a few date activities. I would slip a couple hundred in my mother's purse. She would ask me if I put it there, and when I said no, she thought it was a gift from God. Towards the end of my time there, I got really bored, yay I know, and I handed in my resignation. I got called in by the manager, assistant manager, and security. They sat me down with a boatload of receipts and said, "Do you know what these are and why we called you here?" I just shook my head, heart pounding a mile per minute, but if Law and Order taught me anything, it's don't say shit. He explained they had been missing a lot of money since I started, and that my register kept coming up short. I still didn't say anything. He stated that I would get in a lot of trouble, and I needed to tell them if I did it. I said, "Okay." I didn't do it. He said, "We know you did." I said something like, "If you can show me a video of me doing it, then I did it." At this point, I'm about to pass out because I'm pretty sure I'm about to be put in jail. He held up the receipts and just said, "We're going to let you go. Officer Blank will walk you out." And that was that. My mother never found out. I never told my friends, and nothing came of it. I saved the rest and used it towards my college apps and my car insurance. I never stole again, although I missed the rush. Our next post is by TX Lifer. I quit my horrendous job, but I told my friends I got fired. I recently retired from the military and began looking for a permanent position. I took a job in the fall of last year with high hopes that it would carry me over to permanent retirement. It paid very well and was for a company that makes billions in revenue every year. However, about a month in, I realized why my position was constantly open, that the boss was extremely toxic. She called meetings just for the sake of calling a meeting and made her employees' lives a living hell. I grew to hate waking up every day and dreaded the first phone call from her, which usually involved her sending me on a wild goose chase for something that was pointless. I made it to spring, but couldn't handle my boss anymore. However, people in my family don't quit. We endure even if it ruins our mental and physical health, but even if other options are out there, we don't quit. In March, our company had layoffs, and I honestly prayed I was one of the few being let go. I wasn't. My family heard about the layoffs and wondered if I was one of them being let go. Before I could think straight, I said, "Yes, so sad, but I am being let go." I put in my notice, making sure not to burn bridges with my toxic boss in spite of how sick of her I was. I was able to get a new job quickly, with comparable pay and benefits that I love, so financially, I was fine, but my family went around telling everyone that I got laid off. I don't regret leaving whatsoever, but I regret lying, and now having to sustain it. I know I was wrong, but I felt desperate. Our last post is by I Look Better Than You. I disabled appliances in my house because my landlord refused to pay for oil she used. I thought I won the lottery when I moved into a new house a friend had recently bought. She bought the house for the sole purpose of renting it out, and I decided to rent the top floor, making it my own little studio with a big roof terrace. The bottom floor had their own outside area. The way it was explained to me, the roof terrace was part of my studio. The house used to be a hostel and was sold with everything still in it, and it was quite a mess. I got a few friends over for the weekend to clean everything up, buy a few new things like outside furniture, and make it look pretty. It was hard work, but afterwards, it looked amazing, especially the roof terrace, which I turned into my own slice of meditation lounge heaven. After about a month, my friend decided she was going to move out of her own house, to rent it out and make more money, and move in with us, but there was no room available, so I wondered what her plan was. Turns out she wants to take part of the roof terrace and turn it into her room. So I argued it was part of what I rented. Turns out she meant I could use it while she allowed it, but it wasn't part of my rental. Of course we argued, but when it got to the point of fighting and losing a friend and a house, I decided to budge and adjust the roof terrace to fit her room. To her credit, she only took 60 square feet, but it was a sign of things to come. Long story short, she was cheap, was slow with fixing things around the house, always sought the cheapest solutions that would break again quickly, would put a timer on the hot boiler so there would often be no warm water for showers, would constantly complain about leaving lights on, etc., etc. But what finally pushed my buttons to my confessional was when she took my motor oil, a full gallon, and put it in her car. When I came home and saw it missing, she first denied until she couldn't deny no longer. She then admitted but refused to pay for the replacement. We had a huge fight, and I told her I'm going to look for a new house. In the weeks following, I disabled the washing machine, the oven, the fridge, the locks, and her car. She had to fix all of them, costing her way more than just replacing my oil. She never suspected it was me for some reason, and I left 3 weeks later, never to speak to her again. I never told anyone cause it makes me look petty and vindictive, but I'm not sorry at all. Maybe even a little bit proud that I stood up for myself. Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.